6 months ago, if you had asked me whether I would ever make money online outside of a normal job, I probably would have laughed. Not because it was impossible, but because it felt like one of those things that only happened to other people. You know the kind of videos I'm talking about. The ones where someone says they made thousands of dollars online in a month, and it feels so far removed from your life that you almost treat it like entertainment instead of reality. Back then, I was just like most people watching those videos, curious, a little skeptical, and honestly, a little frustrated. Because I had a job, I was working hard, but I still felt like all of my income was tied directly to how many hours I worked. If I worked 40 hours, I got paid for 40 hours. If I worked overtime, I got paid a little more. But the equation was always the same. Time equals money. And the moment you stop trading time, the money stops too. So today I want to talk about something very simple. In January, I made $748 online outside of a traditional 9 to 5. That's it. Not $10,000, not a crazy number, just $748. But the reason I'm making this video is because that number represents something much bigger than the money itself. It represents proof. Proof that it's possible to create income streams that aren't directly tied to a job. Proof that you can start small and still build something meaningful. And proof that the internet isn't just a place to consume content, it's a place where you can actually create value and get paid for it. But before I explain how I made that money, I want to rewind a little bit, because the reality is that none of this happened overnight. A year ago, my entire mindset around money was different. I thought the only real way to make a living was through a normal career path. You go to school, you get a job, you climb the ladder, and hopefully after decades of work, you eventually reach some level of financial stability. That's the path most of us are told to follow. And for a long time, I believed that was the only option. But at the same time, I kept noticing something interesting. Everywhere online, there were people building small businesses, side projects, and digital income streams. Some people were selling digital products, some were creating content, some were freelancing, others were building communities or newsletters or software tools. And the common theme between all of them was simple. They weren't just trading time for money anymore, they were building assets. And there's a huge difference between those two things. So one day I decided to test something. Instead of continuing to research and overthink every possible option, I would just start experimenting. No perfect plan, no elaborate strategy, just small experiments to see what actually worked. Because the truth is, you don't learn how to make money online by thinking about it. You learn by trying things. That's where this $748 number really begins. At the start of January, I decided I wanted to see what would happen if I treated the internet like a playground for ideas instead of a place to endlessly scroll. Instead of spending hours consuming content, I would spend that same time creating things. And the first thing I started with was content. I began posting consistently online. Nothing crazy, just sharing ideas, documenting what I was learning, and talking about topics I was already interested in. Personal finance, building income streams, productivity, and the process of trying to escape the traditional work-only mindset. I didn't expect it to turn into money. At the beginning, I was just focused on building something. I began posting consistently online. Nothing crazy, just sharing ideas, documenting what I was learning, and talking about topics I was already interested in. Personal finance, building income streams, productivity, and the process of trying to escape the traditional work-only mindset. I didn't expect it to turn into money. At the beginning, I was just focused on building something. And here's the interesting thing about the internet. When you consistently put useful ideas out there, opportunities start to appear. Some people began asking questions. Some people asked how I was learning certain things. Others wanted advice about starting their own projects or side hustles. Slowly, small conversations started happening, and those conversations turned into the first income stream that contributed to that $748. The first piece was simple consulting calls, nothing fancy. People reached out asking if they could hop on a short call to talk about content creation, side projects, or ideas for making money online. I didn't start by charging a lot. In fact, the first few calls were extremely cheap. But the goal wasn't maximizing money at the start. The goal was validating that someone was willing to pay for my time and perspective. Over the course of January, those calls added up to a few $100s. Not life-changing money, but incredibly valuable proof. Because once someone pays you even a small amount online, something changes in your brain. It stops feeling theoretical. It becomes real. The second piece came from digital products. Now, when people hear the term digital product, they imagine complicated online courses or massive programs. But that's not what I built. I created something extremely simple, a small resource that organized the tools and strategies I had been using while experimenting online. It was basically a condensed guide that saved people time by showing them what I had already tested. I priced it cheaply because the goal was accessibility, and over the course of the month, a handful of people bought it. Again, not thousands of sales, just a small number of people who found it useful enough to support the work I was doing. That was another chunk of the $748. The third piece came from something that surprised me the most: donations and community support. When you consistently share ideas and help people online, some of them simply want to support what you're doing. Platforms like Buy Me a Coffee or similar tools make that extremely easy. A few people who enjoyed the content I was posting decided to send small contributions. Each one was small individually, $5 here, $10 there, but together they added up to a meaningful amount by the end of the month. And when you combine those three things, consulting calls, a small digital product, and community support, the total came out to $748. Now, I want to be very clear about something. The purpose of this video isn't to say that $748 is some massive success story. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge number. Plenty of people make far more online. But that's exactly why it matters, because most make money online content jumps straight to the extreme examples: the $10,000 months, the six-figure businesses, the viral overnight success stories. And when people see those numbers, it feels unrealistic. It feels like something only a tiny percentage of people can achieve. But $748 feels different. It feels attainable. It feels like something that could realistically happen if you spent a few months building skills, sharing ideas, and experimenting online. And more importantly, it represents the first stage of something that can grow. Because here's the thing most people misunderstand about online income. The first dollar is the hardest, not because of the money itself, but because of the mindset shift it creates. Once you prove to yourself that you can generate even a small amount of income outside of a job, your perspective changes. Suddenly you realize the internet isn't just a place to watch other people succeed. It's a place where you can build things too. That realization alone is powerful. But there's another lesson from January that might be even more important. The money didn't come from one big breakthrough. It came from multiple small streams working together. A little bit from consulting, a little bit from digital products, a little bit from community support. Individually, each one was small, but together they created something meaningful. And that's exactly how most online income actually works in the beginning. It's not one giant stream, it's several small ones that grow over time. One day the consulting becomes more valuable, the digital products improve, the audience grows, new opportunities appear, and slowly those small numbers start compounding. But none of that happens if you never start experimenting. That's the real reason I wanted to share this story, because there are so many people right now who want to build something online but are stuck in preparation mode. They're researching side hustles, watching tutorials, reading threads about business ideas, planning everything perfectly before they take action. And the problem with that approach is simple. You can plan forever and still learn nothing. The only real way to understand how the internet economy works is to participate in it. Create something, share an idea, offer value, try a small product, talk to people, experiment. Most of your first attempts will probably fail, that's normal, but every experiment teaches you something, and eventually one of them starts working. For me, January was proof that the process works. $748 isn't the final destination, it's just the first milestone, a signal that the path I'm experimenting with actually leads somewhere. And if you're watching this right now thinking about building something online, whether that's content, a side project, a digital product, or a small community, my advice is incredibly simple. Start before you feel ready. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need thousands of followers. You don't need to know exactly how everything will work. What you need is momentum. Because 6 months from now, you can either still be watching videos about people making money online, or you can be the person with your own small number to talk about. Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $500, maybe it's your own version of $748. But that number will mean more than any tutorial you could ever watch, because it will represent something real that you built yourself. And once that happens, everything changes.